Word declares that there is no other name under heaven whereby men must be saved. And now we call on that name of Jesus. Open our spiritual eyes that we might see in the spiritual room, our spiritual ears that we might hear what the Spirit is saying to us individually as well as collectively. God, once again, allow the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart to be accepted in thy sight. God, you are my strength and my redeemer. In the name of Yeshua the Christ. Amen. In this first book of Samuel, it is believed that in the original record there was no separation, that there was just Samuel, no first book, no second book. We find it in the books that are known as history. Sister Moffat, one of the strange things I find in this book is that there are three main characters really in the book of Samuel, whether that be 1st or 2nd Samuel. And neither of those is this woman by the name of Hannah. We find that the son that she prayed for is a main character. He is the last of the judges. We find that Saul, the first of the kings, is a main character. And he is a king that is removed. And many of you may be familiar with that king by the name of David. He is the third main character. But here it is in chapter number 1. We find this woman praying, and who seems at the beginning of the book to set the tone for the rest of the book. Sister Williams, I thought about what would I use as bones for the church to put meat on. Perhaps, maybe we would go back to having a spiritual imagination. But there are those passages of Scripture that do not lend themselves to bones, for they are the bones themselves. And such is the case in this passage. Have you ever had to pray the same prayer over and over and over again? Almost to the point that you lose faith, Willie, in praying the prayer, because you feel as though if God was going to answer it, he would have answered it by now. And to add insult to injury, it seems as though somebody whose life does not seem to nearly be as devoted to God as yours is, seems to be getting prayer after prayer after prayer answered. All right. If you've ever had that experience, I want to talk to you for a few moments about persistence in prayer. I grew up in a time where in the church there It was taught that you didn't have to ask God about anything but one time. If you have to ask him more than once, it was a testament to your lack of faith. For truly God was able to hear you the first time that you asked. And there's something wrong with that type of theology, because we find in the Bible that there are several characters that had to ask God for something more than one time. And so that type of theology can mess you up, Sister White, when you ask God for something and it seems as though either he said no or he just forgot about you altogether. But here we find in this passage that here it is, Hannah is persistent in her prayer. One of the things that we find in this passage of Scripture, first of all, is that Hannah had a spouse.
All right.
Sister Francine, when I first read this, I almost gave her spouse a bad name.
All right.
Even though it says that he took his wives and his children to Shiloh, and this is after Israel had been conquered by the Babylonians, and the temple of the tabernacle had been moved to Shiloh, and it says that he went with his wives. I was asking myself, where was Elkanah while Hannah was doing all of this praying? And so we find that she had a spouse, and in the culture of the time, it was a culture that was man-dominated. It was a culture that was man-driven. And here it is that in some African cultures, we find that the wife, the first wife, the most important wife, the main wife, is called the first lady. And as we read in the passage, we find that Hannah would have fit the story of the script as the first lady. Why? Because Elkanah gave her a double portion. Says that he loved his wife. Can you imagine the agony he must have gone through? Can you imagine the private prayers that he must have prayed, because this woman that he loved was anguished because she had not given childbirth? And in the culture, if a woman had not given her husband a child, it was a sign that there was a curse on the woman, even though when it says in the Bible that God had shut her womb, that God had not really shut her womb, he just had not opened it yet. Somebody said sometimes your prayer being delayed is just a delay and not a denial. Sometimes you just have to be persistent in your prayers. And so here it was that I almost gave Elkanah a bad name, but he loved his wife Hannah, and he was concerned that his wife had not bore him a child. And she joined the ranks of Rachel and Sarah and others. Rebecca, whose womb seemed to have been shut, had not been opened yet. But not only did Hannah have a spouse who was concerned about her and loved her. Can I pause right there just for a moment to say, sometimes it seems as though that love is not enough. For truly Hannah understood the love that her husband had for her, and understood that he had shown and expressed it by giving her a double portion, and no doubt having prayed for her, that she would have understood that it was okay with him that she had not had a child. But sometimes a woman wants what a woman wants. And Hannah must have felt as though to completely fulfill her role as a wife, that she needed to give her husband a child. The scripture said that they went up year after year after year, Jacob. Like imagine that she prayed year after year after year. And it says that she went through the same thing year after year. Here it is that she was scorned. She was a woman that was scorned by the other woman. It says Peninnah scorned her, mocked her, made fun of her because she had children and Hannah did not. Have you ever had anybody scorn you because you seem not to have the blessings of God on your life as though they had on theirs? Perhaps they live in a bigger house than you. Perhaps they drive a newer car than you. Perhaps they have what they consider a better job than you. If you in the church, perhaps they pastor a bigger church than you. Perhaps they can sing better than you. Whatever it is, you feel like you have been scorned. Verse 6 says, and her rival also provoked her severely. How much so, Reverend? It said it made her miserable because she had not had a child. But can I tell you that Hannah didn't let that stop her? She just kept on praying. Have you ever had a situation on your job where it looked like things just weren't going to turn around for you? You know some scoundrels on your job. Not trying to live a bit of anything for God, but it seems like they're the ones that get the promotion. It seems like they're the ones that get noticed after they took your idea and ran with it. Come on. Go ahead now. But she was persistent. Can I share with you that sometimes, no matter what it looks like, and no matter how miserable you may allow yourself to get, you have to just keep on praying anyhow. Not only that, it said that she prayed out of her sorrow. See, Sister Aiken, it's one thing to pray when things are going well. It's one thing to tell God thank you because life is allowing the sun to shine and you are in a good place. But it's another thing that when you are praying out of your sorrow, when you are praying and nothing but tears can come to your eyes. The scripture says that she prayed and she wept. Year after year she would go and she would cry because she had not a child and she was sorrowful. Can I tell you that sometimes you can't think straight? When your eyes are full of tears. Sometimes you can't think straight when your heart is heavy. Sometimes you can't think straight when the person that you love and the person that loves you keeps saying that everything is all right, but to you it's not. All right. I can hear Eli. I can hear her husband. I can hear Elkanah saying, "But baby, honey, Hannah, aren't I better than 10 sons?" And he didn't understand. Most men don't understand. It wasn't about 10 sons. It was the first son that she hadn't had. I tell you that praying out of your sorrow is better than not praying at all? You just have to be persistent, Brother Anthony, and just keep on praying. You might have to pray, cry, and sing the lyrics to James Cleveland. If I can just hold out just a little while longer, my change is gonna come. Sometimes you might have to encourage yourself and say, I don't believe it'll be as long as it has been. You've got to be persistent in prayer. But not only was she scorned, not only did she have a spouse, not only did she pray in her sorrow, what I like about it is that she solicited God. And when she solicited God, she was specific about what she wanted. You've heard the story. You heard me tell the story that when Sister Martha and I were trying to have a child, the doctor said that we were far beyond the time that it would be possible. I prayed and I said, God, a girl would not be funny. While I know that you have a sense of humor, I want somebody to carry on the Moffat name. I understand that I would be grateful for a healthy child, but right now, God, I want to have a boy. And Hannah prayed that she would be given a man child. She was specific. She solicited God. But how about in her solicitation to God, the priest, the man of God, Eli, presumed that she was drunk? Why did he presume that, Reverend? I'm glad you asked. It's right there in the text. It says that Hannah's lips moved, but no words came out. In other words, perhaps Eli was living from the experiences of his two sons, who had brought woman after woman into the tabernacle. And perhaps Eli thought that this was just another woman that his sons had brought in. But then if they came every year, how did he not recognize this man and his wives? And so he scorned her. He rebuked her. Imagine coming to the house of God and getting rebuked for praying. But Hannah didn't allow that to stop. She was still persistent in her prayer. Can I just be real with you for a moment? I would imagine that been one of the ladies at Hosanna that came in prayer was scorning you for praying because you were praying from the depths of your heart and you were so sorrowful that nothing could come out. And I had the nerve to accuse you of being drunk. Might be a meeting call. As a matter of fact, some say, Red, there will be no meeting. I'm just going to tell my husband. All right. And you and him get meeting. And may the best man walk away. But she didn't allow it to stop. She still was persistent. And here it is that, again, this culture She makes a vow to God that in light of the culture is not a vow for a wife to make. She tells God that if you hear my petition, if you give me a son, I will dedicate him. I will make the vow of a Nazarite, and no razor shall touch his head, and I will bring him to the priest, and his life will be dedicated to you. You ever did something you had no authority to do? Just knew she didn't have authority to make that vow. But the fact that she did, you see, her husband had to go along with it, Melissa, in order for it to be upheld. She decided what the child would be named, but that was typically what the father did. But the father had to go along with it. And I can imagine that she had been scorned for so long because he loved her.
Yes.
You know, sometimes we just say, whatever, honey. And can you imagine that if we can say whatever because of our love? Can you hear God saying, all right, baby, you've been asking me long enough. And so now I'm going to do what you asked me to do. Look at your neighbor and say, you got to be persistent.
You gotta be persistent
In your prayer. And then you got to solicit the right person. You see, I told you that out of the cradles of Africa come all religions or major religions. Voodoo comes out of Africa. Oftentimes we talk about this in our new members classes that when you watch voodoo on TV, it's a little rag doll, some straw. Maybe they put a noose around his neck or stick some pins in it, Janice. This is the revenge side of voodoo, but what you don't see is that there was a healing side to voodoo. Here, what are you saying, Reverend? I'm saying is that there were other gods that Hannah could have solicited, but she decided to solicit the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob. What I'm saying is that when you are persistent in your prayer, you need to be praying to the right person. Oh, yeah, you could go see the soothsayer. And Sister Williams, I almost called her name, but if your name I won't call now. You might go see the madam rather than to go and see God. But we need to solicit the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We need to solicit the God that is a living God. And I'm almost done. And so she solicited the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob. And after the priest, Eli told her, and I didn't see it here where he said he was sorry. An apology is always in line. But he told her it would be with her as she had prayed. And so then she solidified her faith. What do you mean, Reverend? She solidified her faith. Well, it says that they went home. And it says Elkanah knew his wife. She went home and did what it was going to take for her to get pregnant. Now somebody said, well, Rev, that ain't no big thing. Well, pause for a moment and think about it. If after all of these years, she had not given her husband a child, what makes you think she wanted to keep practicing if she wasn't going to get what she practiced for. I know some of you say, well, there's other reasons. Well, you got to understand the culture. In the day, in the time of the culture, what they did was for procreation. If enjoyment came out of it, it just happened to come out of it, but that wasn't the main reason. And so why would she want to go and solidify her faith? Why would she start to eat? Because she had fasted. She was so sorrowful. She had been scorned so much that she had lost her appetite. Somebody said, ain't that much appetite lost in the world? Sometimes you got to solidify your faith. You got to walk in faith and not by your sight. You got to live as though what you ask God for, as though it is coming to pass, as though it has already taken place, even if you can't see it, even if people call you crazy, even if people laugh at you, you have got to solidify your faith. Somebody said, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. In other words, you got to act like it's coming to pass, even if it don't come to pass. And then after she solidified her faith, it didn't happen the next month. But I would imagine 9 months later, Samuel, the child that she had prayed for, the child that would be the last judge of Israel, the child that would anoint King Saul and King David. She got to see her son. Can you imagine? I'm closing. Can you imagine? After all those years, her rival making fun of her. Her rival got children. She don't have any. After the priest making fun of her. And see what the scripture doesn't tell us about, if I can use my spiritual imagination, I would imagine that not only was it her rival that made fun of her, but the other women of Israel asked themselves, what is wrong with Hannah? That she don't have no children. How do I come to that? Because Job's friend said it was Job that must have done something wrong in order for him to go through what he went through. Sometimes folk will fight you off. Just hold on. Just keep holding on. Just be persistent in your prayer. Even if you have to pray and cry. Cry and pray. Your persistent prayer. See, somebody said it like this: the fervent prayer of the righteous availeth much. Now, I don't know why God takes so long to answer some prayers. If I did, I don't even know if I would tell you. I want to mess up your faith. What I know is that God is a sovereign God. And if you get nothing else out of today's sermon, Mama prayer was good. Daddy's prayer was good. Pastor's prayer might be okay. But there's nothing like your own prayer. And I told you this before. Some of you don't like it. That's all right, you get over it. The veil of the temple has already been torn. The high priest has been replaced by Jesus the Christ. And it's the Apostle Paul that suggests that each of us have become high priests in our own right. Now that's a suggestion. If he's correct about that, that means that you can go to God just like I can go to God. But it's good to have somebody that can pray for you when you don't feel like praying for yourself. But my prayer ain't no better than yours. And I can't fix my mouth on your situation better than you can fix your own mouth on your own situation. If you don't know the Lord, the pardons of your sin. The first prayer that we typically pray is, Lord, forgive me. Some have said that God doesn't hear a sinner's prayer. I would submit to you that that's a misinterpretation of the scripture. For if he didn't hear a sinner's prayer, all of us worship in vain. As we stand, if you don't know the Lord, the pardons of your sin,